All right, people. This is Jamal, and today I'm going to talk to you about a topic that I was thinking about talking about for a while now, but I just didn't know, or I was being too lazy to actually approach it. But it's more like some preliminary thoughts on my black identity in America. And what do I mean by that? I guess it's like, how do I feel about being black and going on the internet, on Twitter, Reddit, or whatever, and seeing other black people talk about their experiences and seeing non-black people think what the experience that all black people seem to share seems to be like one of lower middle class or lower class struggling, having to deal with bad influences and growing up. And my story is not like that at all. So for one thing, right, I like to differentiate between black Americans and black immigrants. So I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I have West Indian parents. So my mom's American, and my dad's West Indian. But culturally, growing up, we would do West Indian things, like things about that we do back in Tobago or whatever. But I also have some experience with some American things because my mom's side of family is American, and that was the side that I was most exposed to because they're here in the states and they live close to us. And growing up, I had a different upbringing than a lot of the people um that I were friends with in school or whatever. So for example, my family, the most important thing is education. That was drilled into me from day one. Education, you have to go to school, you have to get straight A's, you have to go to college. There was no other path for me. I couldn't go to the military. I couldn't drop out. I couldn't do anything. It wasn't feasible. I had to get A's, no questions asked. I remember one time I got a D one a D in my what's a progress report? Yeah, I got a D on my progress report. It wasn't even my report card. And I got threatened to be put up for adoption. Like that's how serious education was to me and because of my family. And it's not like this with like the average African American household, I don't think. It's like a it's like an immigrant mentality. It really is. You ever see like movies or families of Asian families where it's like education? You gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a lawyer. It's like that with like Nigerians too. It's education above all. They don't care how, they just want you to get good grades, get straight A's. It's very, very strict. And you combine that with growing up in a black town. So for most of my life I grew up in a town that was 70, 80. Well, now it's 70, but back then it was 80% black. And I didn't see any white people. I didn't see them. I didn't grow up with them. If I did, it was one. There was one white guy I went to school with. His name was Tom, and like he was like the first white guy that like I was friends with in my entire life. Like because there was no white people, so I grew up around black people, and that's all I ever knew for a long time until I got to high school, and then there was more like a diverse mixture of people because it was a county school instead of being like a regional thing. But my upbringing was a lot different than like the average Black American. I think most I'm not gonna say most, but a good amount of Black people are like lower class or inner city. I'm not inner city. I grew up in the suburbs, and they have to deal with like influences like drugs and gangs and stuff like that. But that wasn't my experience at all. And I look online and I say Black people talking about racism. I have never experienced overt racism in this country, like just blatant racism. Like I've experienced microaggressions, but that's just the 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 it comes with living in America. Like people don't know everything about you, so they'll do things that will seem like offensive to you, but they don't know because they're ignorant because they can't possibly expect to know everything about your culture, and that's okay. But I've never experienced like blatant racism. I think closest I got to it was walking into a corner store and have the person on the front counter just watch me. But that's neither here nor there. Um, and the funny thing is, almost all of like, but but almost like all like the racial things I had experienced in my life has come from black people. But that's not surprising because I grew up in an all black town. Like I remember they would say, "Why are you speaking like that? You speak like a white man, like a white boy. Stop talking like that." Because I wasn't speaking the way like everybody else was. Man, it was just it was the interesting um it was interesting growing up. But the thing is, you could see. So for middle school, I went to a Catholic school, and to get to a Catholic school, you had to pay money. So the Catholic school automatically like selects against people who could not afford to get in. But because I was in an all black town, um, it was still mostly black people, some Spanish people, because a lot of Spanish people, I must say Spanish, a lot of Latino people are are Catholic, and that's why I met Tom, the white boy, for the first time. But when I got to high school, it was it was like the floodgates were open, so I was able to see people from like all different like um classes and racial backgrounds, and that was eye opening too because you come up to see some people who are just different from you, and some people who don't value the same things that I value. And a lot of people are black people. So, for example, drug use was getting real popular. This is like back before the opioid epidemic, but you could see like the people who were getting hooked onto that stuff, who were getting negatively influenced back in high school. And back then, I had no idea what was going on. Like I see people doing this stuff, and it's like, uh. But it didn't strike me to what would happen to them in the future because a lot of people died from my high school from overdosing on whatever. And it was just strange to me because I would see people who just didn't value the same things I value, and I came to find out later in life that there's just a cultural difference between foreign black people or descendants of foreigners, and then the black people who are here since for a long time. And I came to the conclusion that I'm not like these people. Like my skin tone is the same, but I'm not like them. I don't have the same mindset as them. I don't have the same culture as them. They're different from me in almost every sense of the way. I can't talk to these people because what we value just are not the same across the board. And to this day, it's still hard for me to talk to them because I know a lot of these people, and it's just a struggle, man. It's like it's a mindset that they get into that I can see 100% and understand why they get into it, but it's so hard to break. When this is all you know, this is all you ever know. But the thing that got me right was there are people who grew up under the same circumstances, like upper middle class, but and back in high school, they would want to pretend that they were from someplace that they weren't. So I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but people like to like flaunt their hood, like flaunt where they're from, like I'm from Newark, or I'm from Camden, or I'm from New York, and it was like the cool thing to do to try to gain some social credibility. Like I'm really tough. I can handle my own stuff. Like I can fight, and but they weren't really from there. If you were friends with them and you knew them personally and you met their family, they were nothing like that. And there was just this allure to being somebody who had to struggle, who had to like have a hard life. And after we graduate, these types of people who really wanted to be about it would try to move there, and then they actually became what they weren't. And it's just really puzzling to me. It's like I always want to know, why would you want to be that? Why would you want to have that lifestyle? That's not easy. It's not to stress about how what you're going to eat, to want to fight people, to want to kill people. It's like, what is the attraction here? It never hit me, but hey, what can I say? I was just the guy who played League of Legends the entirety of his high school career. But being black is so much more than just being black. There's different types of black people, and it's hard to know that. But I like to keep that in mind whenever I see black issues being brought up, because Nigerians are not the same as Americans. Like African Americans are not the same as Black Americans. Completely different. Caribbean Americans, like Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, they are not the same as Black Americans. They are just completely different. But you know what's really weird to me? Even though we have like the same skin tone and we're just culturally different, the success measures are different across the board. I think like Nigerians are like super successful in America, super successful even though they're darker. They're black, and I think Caribbean Americans are really successful in America too. But black people who are born in like I say like black people who have had ancestors here since the beginning of America. Let's say this. This is more concise. Black people who are descendants of slaves um don't seem to perform that well, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, I can guess why, but it's neither here nor there, and I have no real facts about it. This is just me talking about my backstory, anecdotally, and just a video I just wanted to have just talk about because I'm confronted with this every single time. Um, People expect me to act a certain way because my skin tone, but it's like no. People expect me to have a certain beliefs because of my skin tone. I'm like no. Sometimes I just feel really just confused because oh my god, I have so many issues to talk about when it comes to like the things that I've had to deal with growing up. Like there's this thing we could be called the Uncle Tom in the black community whenever you don't like co-sign to like the popular narrative. And one of the things that gets me is that black people are conservative across the board. Like black Americans, I mean African Americans and Caribbean Americans are super conservative, but so are black Americans. But they vote Democrat because they think that Republicans are racist or whatever. And to me, it makes way more sense in my mind for a black person to vote Republican because their values align so much. But because of the racist rhetoric that the Republican Party employs sometimes, it's just such a turnoff. But so if you ever come out like against the Democratic Party or pick up a Republican narrative, you get branded as a other and labeled Uncle Tom. But those values are the ones that black people traditionally value. So it's just there's so many things that I just come to just realize growing up, and it's just that's another video. That's neither here nor there. But this is just me ranting 8 o'clock in the morning before I have to work about some of the things that I noticed growing up. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. My name is Jamal Gardiner. I try to make videos whenever I feel like it. And have a nice day. Peace.